Gotham never sleeps. Its towers stretch like the ribs of a broken god, catching lightning between their steel bones. And beneath that storm, a single man stands, the Dark Knight, the only guardian this fractured city still believes in.
Batman's sensors scream. A dimensional reading flickers on his gauntlet. Not from this universe. Energy spikes rip through the sky above Ace Chemicals. A tear in reality yawns open, swirling like a violet hurricane of liquid glass.
He's seen portals before. Boom tubes, wormholes, alien gateways. But this hums with hunger.
He fires the grapnel, gliding toward the tear. His cape flares, lightning outlines the bat symbol. He activates the multiverse analyzer. Readings spike off the chart. A voice crackles through the comms, Alfred's voice, fading in static.
Sir, are you seeing...
He's pulled forward. Gravity collapses. Darkness folds over light. The bat is consumed. In that instant, Bruce Wayne ceased to exist on any world known to man. His body was torn from time, his mind dragged through eternity, and the warp whispered his name. He awakens on metal, cold, rusted. Above him looms a sky of ash and iron. Gotham is gone. The air tastes of blood and machine oil. The Dark Knight had landed on a battlefield older than Earth itself, a world where men were numbers and gods demanded obedience. He had entered the universe of the 41st Millennium. Searchlights cut through the dust. A column of Astra Militarum soldiers march past. They see the black figure crouched on the ridge and raise their lasguns.
Identify yourself, heretic.
Batman doesn't move. He analyzes uniforms, weapons, insignia. Imperial, human, but far beyond any era he knows. He throws a smoke pellet, vanishes. He hides among the corpses of a previous battle, listens. He learns names, faiths, superstitions. They speak of a god-emperor who sits upon a golden throne, a galaxy ruled by fear and endless war. To them, he would be a myth, a heretic wrapped in shadow. To him, they were a reflection of what humanity might become without hope.
A chaos warband ambushes the regiment. Mutated soldiers charge, chanting names of their dark gods. Batman reacts, a borer of motion. He uses their own terrain against them, triggers explosions, blinds their sensors. But there are too many.
He is captured, dragged in chains to a fortress of black stone. There, robed men in augmetic armor study him, the Inquisition. They called him Xenos. They called him witch spawn. But Batman called it something else, an opportunity to understand the enemy's world before breaking free. Inside the inquisitorial archives, he reads their histories, the rise of the Emperor, the Horus Heresy, the Long War. He learns chaos, a realm born from emotion, where every fear becomes a monster. Fear as power, fear as God. He had fought fear all his life. Now, he faced its truest form. Hijacks a supply crawler, disappears into the hive's underbelly, a labyrinth of rust, ash, and sorrow. In the dark veins of this new world, the legend of the Bat was born again, a ghost without origin, hunting the corrupted and the cruel. The Imperium whispered his name, the shadow without faith. But even a shadow cannot survive forever in a world without light. And somewhere across the cosmos, a light had felt his loss. Batman awoke to a sky the color of ash and iron. The air was thick with the tang of burning oil, ozone, and something fouler, a stench that hinted at death and devotion all at once. He moved cautiously, analyzing the streets. Imperial graffiti, strange sigils carved into stone, and human skeletons in decayed armor littered the alleys. His bat sensors detect movement. A squad of guardsmen advancing, disciplined but weary, bolters in hand. He was an outsider in a civilization ruled by iron, fear, and faith, a world where men were nothing without orders, and obedience was enforced with death. A sudden explosion erupts nearby. A chaos cultist mob attacks, armed with rusted blades and crude flamers. Batman reacts instinctively. He flips over debris, using shadows and rubble to his advantage. Smoke grenades explode, creating a blur of black among the chaos. His war on crime had prepared him for Gotham, but this was different. Here the monsters were real, and the stakes were infinite.
He pauses in a ruined square. Gazing up, he sees a colossal statue, the Emperor of Mankind, golden and imposing, arms outstretched as if demanding loyalty from the dead beneath. A chill runs down his spine. Here was faith incarnate, carved into steel and gold, unyielding. Batman's mission had changed. Survival alone was no longer enough. He needed to understand this world if he ever hoped to escape. As night falls, the city becomes a labyrinth. Chaos forces lurk in the shadows, corrupted humans, twisted by the warp, their eyes glowing with malice. Batman fights silently, leaving no trace except bodies neatly arranged as warnings. Every shadow was a weapon, every strike a message. He had become more than a man here, a ghost moving through a world that had forgotten hope. He discovers an abandoned cathedral, a sacred place of the Imperium. Inside, the walls are covered in murals depicting eternal war, the Emperor, and fallen heroes. He pauses before a mural of an Imperial hero, fallen yet defiant. Batman understood something then. This world needed its shadows just as much as Gotham needed its bat, and in the absence of hope, he would become the instrument of it. While scavenging for supplies, he uncovers a cache, weapons and tech beyond his understanding, but adaptable. He modifies his suit, incorporating elements of Imperial tech, stealth coils, reinforced plating, and adaptive optics. He was no longer merely a man in a mask. He was a shadow that could walk through steel, a symbol that could inspire fear, even among monsters.
But danger waits. In the distance, the ground shakes with the march of armored titans, chaos knights, massive and unstoppable. Batman observes, calculating. Every strike, every movement must be precise. One mistake would mean death, not just for him, but for any fragile glimmer of humanity he seeks to protect. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But even in war, a shadow can strike where the light cannot reach. And the Bat had returned, not just to fight, but to survive.
Alone, in a world of iron and fire, Batman was not just a man anymore. He was a weapon. And somewhere beyond the stars, a light began to stir. A promise of rescue, a glimmer of hope.
The fortress loomed above him, black as obsidian and crowned with iron spires. Chains rattled against stone, and the air smelled of incense, oil, and decay. Batman had been captured. Inquisitors and acolytes examined him, their eyes hidden behind lenses glowing red. To them, he was an anomaly, a human unlike any they had catalogued. They labeled him Xenos, a witch spawn from another reality. In a world ruled by faith and iron, deviation was dangerous. Survival meant obedience, or cunning beyond comprehension.
Batman watched the Inquisition at work. Scrolls and data slates chronicled the Imperium's wars, Horus Heresy, crusades, endless battles. He realized the depth of this universe's darkness. A galaxy enslaved by fear, fighting an unending war against chaos and Xenos alike. Knowledge became his weapon. Observation became his shield. And patience. Patience became his only ally.
Guardsmen escorted him through catacombs of the fortress. Each step echoed on cold stone. The vast halls were adorned with statues of the Emperor, golden and immaculate, arms outstretched to the sky. Here was a god demanding loyalty. Here was humanity enslaved to faith, survival, and terror. And Batman, the Dark Knight, walked among them, a man alone in a world of gods.
In a private chamber, he is shown a device, a scrying mirror of sorts, revealing chaos worlds, warp distortions, and the threats consuming the galaxy. He sees demon princes, warp-spawned monstrosities, and human lives crushed by the weight of the Imperium's endless wars. Fear here had form, pain had shape, and corruption was everywhere, a tide that could drown entire civilizations. Batman studies the technology, reverse engineers the principles. He adapts, noting weaknesses, patterns, and ways to exploit the rigid hierarchy of the Imperium. Every observation is a calculated step toward escape. Here he is a scholar of war, a tactician among the titans of this dark future. Every second in captivity sharpens him. Every glance teaches survival. But danger is constant. Chaos cultists infiltrate the fortress, twisted humans bearing the marks of dark gods. They move like shadows, intent on destruction. And for the first time, Batman sees true evil in flesh. Chaos is cunning. Chaos is relentless. And in its presence, even a mind like Batman's must remain vigilant. He initiates his escape. Using modified gadgets, he disables locks, creates diversions, and neutralizes sentries with silent precision. Yet the fortress is vast, corridors endless, and alarms echo like the heartbeat of the building itself. In this place of gods and monsters, a single man is but a shadow, but shadows can strike where light cannot reach. In his escape, he glimpses a warp portal generator, a massive machine channeling raw warp energy. The Inquisition intends to harness it, potentially devastating nearby systems. Batman records the coordinates and patterns. Knowledge is survival. Information is power. And in a universe where gods demand loyalty, understanding becomes rebellion. With a calculated leap, he disappears into the underbelly of the fortress, evading the Inquisitors. He moves into the Hive City below, blending with scavengers and outcasts, his shadow merging with the darkness. In a galaxy of endless war, even a single man can become a legend. And Batman had just begun his tale.
But even in a world ruled by iron and faith, hope finds a way. And somewhere across the stars, a presence stirred, a light that had felt the shadow's pain. The hive sprawled beneath him like a living beast. Twisting streets, endless towers, and the smell of fire and iron filled the air. Batman moved silently, a shadow in a city where the light had long since died.
He has learned quickly.
Chaos cultists patrol in packs, whispering the names of dark gods and sharpening rusted blades. Batman calculates, observation first, strike second. In Gotham, fear was a tool. Here, fear was alive. It hunted you, and Batman had never been more alive.
A cultist spots a scavenger. A fight breaks out. Batman intervenes. He uses the environment, pipes, catwalks, and machinery to ambush, disable, and disappear without trace. Shadows became weapons. Silence became strategy. And for every chaos scream, a warning was left behind. The Bat moves unseen, unstoppable, relentless.
Through his hunt, he discovers artifacts of the warp, relics infused with dark energy. He studies them carefully, noting how they corrupt the weak and empower the strong. He adapts, using his gadgets to shield himself from the psychic feedback. Knowledge was armor. Understanding was survival. And in a universe of madness, Batman's mind became his greatest weapon.
He intercepts a chaos priest attempting to summon demonic reinforcements. The ritual is halfway complete. Time is critical. Batman disrupts it with explosive charges and precision strikes, preventing the summoning but drawing attention to himself. In this city of despair, one man could alter the tide of war. One strike, one act of defiance could ignite hope.
Imperial Guard forces notice the commotion. Some assume it is a rogue cult uprising. Others whisper of the shadow that moves in the night, rumors of a warrior unseen and unstoppable. Batman uses the distraction to vanish, moving toward deeper parts of the hive. Fear was not his enemy. Fear was his ally. And even among men, monsters, and gods, the Bat left a mark of order in the chaos.
In the Undercity, he discovers the victims of chaos corruption. Children stolen by cultists, civilians enslaved, bodies twisted into forms barely human. He saves as many as he can, leaving coded messages and safe paths for survivors. Even in a galaxy where hope was rare, he became a symbol, not just of fear, but of defiance.
He realizes his mission has expanded. Survival alone is not enough. He must understand the forces of chaos, locate the rift generator, and find a way to escape before the warp consumes this entire world. The Bat had adapted to this universe, bending its darkness to his will. But even the Dark Knight knew he could not stand against all the galaxy alone.
And across the stars, a light felt the shadows struggle, a promise of salvation, a power beyond comprehension. Superman had begun his journey to find him.
The hive city beneath him had become a battlefield. Chaos forces tightened their grip, while the remnants of the Imperial Guard struggled to hold their lines. Batman observed, calculated, planned, and then he acted. He moved among the guardsmen, unseen yet decisive. A squad trapped by chaos marauders? Batman intervened, redirecting fire, sabotaging enemy ammo, and leading the soldiers to tactical advantage. To them, he was a ghost, a shadow in the smoke, an enigma whose actions turned despair into hope. The regiment began to rally. Inspired by the unseen tactician, they executed maneuvers beyond Imperial standard doctrine. The dark streets became traps, ambush points, and death zones for chaos incursions. Even in a universe of fear, strategy and courage could carve a path, and Batman was its architect. Amid the chaos, Batman locates a strategic objective, a warp-tainted supply depot. Inside, cultists and heretics amplify the power of the warp in the city. He infiltrates the depot, neutralizing sentries silently, and plants sabotage charges. In the shadows, he became a single-point strike, capable of toppling structures and shattering enemy plans. Every step precise, every action deliberate. The depot erupts. Chaos energy surges, uncontrollable. Cultists scream and flee. Imperial forces take advantage, pushing forward with newfound coordination. Even in destruction, order could be born, and from the ashes of chaos, hope glimmered.
Batman continues his crusade, moving deeper into the Hive's core. He begins mapping enemy patrols, warp anomalies, and Imperial weaknesses. A plan is forming, one that could not only save civilians, but also open a path for escape. Knowledge, strategy, and courage, the Dark Knight's greatest tools in any universe. But he is not unchallenged. A Chaos champion emerges, larger than any human, eyes glowing with warp energy. The fight is brutal. Batman uses agility, gadgets, and cunning to counter sheer strength. Strength alone does not win wars. Tactics, precision, and the mind of a hunter, that is how shadows conquer light.
As the battle rages, whispers spread among the Imperial Guard. Who is this shadow? An angel of vengeance? The Bat of Shadows. He had become more than man, a symbol, a spark in a galaxy smothered by darkness.
Far across the stars, Superman senses the disturbance. The light in the darkness. The friend lost to the warp calls to him. His journey begins, faster than thought, driven by hope and purpose. Even in a universe of despair, a single light could find a shadow, and across the cosmos, hope was on its way.
Across the endless void, a ripple formed, a disturbance in the warp, a shadow calling to the light. And from that cosmic beacon, a figure streaked through the stars. A man not bound by fear, not shackled by mortality. Superman had arrived.
The worlds of Warhammer 40K trembled. Galactic currents twisted around him. He emerges above a ravaged Hive city, the ground scarred by battle, smoke rising from fires lit by chaos. Light in the darkness, hope in the void, a single soul strong enough to challenge the madness of the galaxy.
He sees them. Civilians trapped, soldiers pinned by chaos forces. He moves with purpose, faster than the eye can follow, rescuing innocents, shielding them from explosions, his presence a beacon of calm amidst terror. Where despair reigns, hope becomes a weapon, and Superman wields it with unmatched force.
The chaos forces notice him. A daemon-infused warband advances, sensing the purity of his power, intent on extinguishing it. But their malice falters as he descends, a red and blue comet of justice. Light cannot be hidden. Shadows cannot resist it forever. And when light meets darkness, legends are forged.
Superman scans the battlefield. He senses something. A darkness even the warp itself struggles to contain. A shadow moving unseen. The Dark Knight. He is here not to fight the galaxy, but to find a friend lost to its horrors. A shadow who has stood alone in a world without light.
Superman lands. The ground shakes. Chaos forces hesitate, sensing a power beyond comprehension. Batman notices the light, instinctively calculating angles, distances, and tactics. The hunter sees the light. The shadow recognizes the hope.
And, across the smoke and ash, they prepare to fight together once more.
In a universe of endless war, even the smallest light can guide a lost shadow home. And across the Hive City, across the stars, the story of Batman and Superman, the Bat and the Angel of Hope, begins to unfold.
The Hive City trembled beneath them. Smoke and fire twisted through broken streets as chaos forces swarmed relentlessly. And amidst the chaos, a shadow moved with precision, the Bat. A light streaked across the sky, Superman arriving faster than the eye could follow.
Batman sees him. For a fraction of a second, calculation pauses, instinct overrides, hope rekindled. Superman lands, boots smashing concrete, scattering debris. Chaos forces hesitate, sensing a force they cannot comprehend. The shadow recognizes the light. The light acknowledges the shadow. And in that moment, the war-torn city pauses, if only for an instant. They exchange no words. A nod, a glance, and coordination begins. Batman points toward enemy clusters. Superman nods, taking flight and clearing the path. Together, they are unstoppable. Years of friendship, battles fought side by side, now tested in the grim darkness of the far future. Two forces, complementary, shadow and light, strategy and strength, hope incarnate.
Chaos daemons emerge. A demon prince descends, towering over the battlefield, eyes burning with wark energy. Batman analyzes weaknesses, signals Superman. They move as one. Superman draws attention, dodging lethal strikes, engaging the Demon Prince directly. Batman uses terrain, grapnel, and explosives to disorient and weaken the enemy. In this universe of endless war, even gods and monsters bow to courage when shadow and light combine.
The Imperium soldiers watch in awe. They whisper legends forming before their eyes. A bat of shadows, an angel of hope, working in perfect unison. The demon prince falters. Chaos forces hesitate. Hope is contagious. And when hope strikes, despair trembles.
Batman activates a device, a signal to destabilize the warp rift. Superman shields him from energy blasts, tearing through enemy lines. The rift shudders, weakening the pull of the warp. Every second counts. Every strike must be perfect. And together, they are more than hero and ally. They are a force capable of reshaping fate. They fight, strike, and maneuver flawlessly. Finally, with a coordinated effort, the Demon Prince is forced back, the warp rift destabilized, and the Hive City's immediate destruction prevented. The reunion was not just a meeting of old friends, it was a convergence of purpose, of hope, and strategy, in a galaxy that had almost forgotten both. And as the smoke cleared, the shadow and the light prepared to face the horrors yet to come. Their bond, unbroken by time or universe, had become the spark that might ignite hope across the stars. Calvaris Prime burned. Smoke rose from shattered spires, flames consumed the streets, and chaos forces swarmed in endless waves. The Dark Knight and the Angel of Hope stood atop the central citadel, preparing to turn the tide.
Batman coordinated Imperial Guard units with military precision, flanking maneuvers, ambush points, explosive traps. Every soldier became part of his shadow army. Superman, meanwhile, tore through Chaos Champions, intercepting artillery shells mid-air, shielding civilians and soldiers alike.
In a world of endless war, even ordinary men can become heroes when guided by shadow and light. The enemy unleashed a demon prince, colossal and twisted. It smashed through Imperial tanks, its claws burning through steel. Batman analyzed its weaknesses, guiding Superman to strike with maximum efficiency. Strength alone does not win wars. Strategy and trust make the difference between life and oblivion. Chaos cultists poured in, attempting to overwhelm the lines. Batman disappeared into shadows, taking out squads silently, cutting off reinforcements. Superman acted as shield and spear, clearing corridors and ripping apart enemy fortifications. They were more than men, more than legends. They were symbols of defiance, of hope, of humanity fighting back against the galaxy's madness. The central warp rift, pulsing with raw chaos energy, threatened to engulf the planet. Batman had located its stabilizers. Sabotage was the only chance to prevent total annihilation. Superman protected him as he infiltrated the generators, chaos forces trying desperately to stop them. Every second counted. Every step brought them closer to salvation or destruction.
The rift destabilized. Warp energy surged violently, tearing through the enemy ranks. Chaos forces screamed in agony, their daemons pulled back into the warp. The Demon Prince fell, shrieking as Superman and Batman delivered the final coordinated strike. Even in the darkest times, light and shadow can prevail. And in that moment, Calvaris Prime had a chance to breathe again. The rift destabilized. Warp energy surged violently, tearing through the enemy ranks. Chaos forces screamed in agony, their daemons pulled back into the warp. The Demon Prince fell, shrieking as Superman and Batman delivered the final coordinated strike. Even in the darkest times, light and shadow can prevail. And in that moment, Calvaris Prime had a chance to breathe again.
The Imperial Guard rallied. Civilians cheered, seeing hope rise from the carnage. Batman and Superman stood side by side, surveying the battlefield, battered but unbroken. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. In this universe, peace is temporary, and darkness waits patiently. But together, shadow and light were unstoppable.
On Calvaris Prime, legends were born. The Bat of Shadows and the Angel of Hope, a duo whose courage inspired soldiers, struck fear into enemies, and reminded the galaxy that even in the 41st millennium, hope could still exist.
The heart of chaos pulsed violently. The warp rift above Calvaris Prime flared with destructive energy, tearing reality itself. Batman and Superman stood at the threshold, ready to face the ultimate confrontation. Chaos forces converged on the rift, led by the Demon Prince, colossal, radiant with warp energy, a storm of malice. Batman scanned the battlefield, calculating angles, escape routes, and weak points. Superman hovered, eyes glowing, ready to strike. In this universe, raw power is nothing without strategy, and strategy without courage is meaningless. The Demon Prince lunged. Superman intercepted, deflecting crushing blows and blasts of warp energy. Batman moved unseen through debris, placing charges and sabotaging the rift stabilizers. Shadow and light working as one, turning chaos into order, destruction into opportunity. The rift became unstable. The Demon Prince roared in fury, thrashing wildly.
Batman calculated the timing. One perfect strike, one precise detonation could collapse the rift and banish the Demon Prince. Every second a lifetime, every heartbeat a decision, and the heroes acted in perfect unison.
Boom. The rift imploded. Warp energy retracted violently, pulling the Demon Prince back into the void. Chaos forces scattered in panic, their power broken. Darkness receded. The shadow and the light had prevailed. The galaxy, for a moment, breathed.
Batman and Superman stood side by side, surveying the aftermath. The city was battered, but alive. The survivors looked on in awe, hope rekindled in the farthest reaches of despair. The Bat had survived a universe of horrors. Superman had delivered a beacon of light. And together, they had reminded the galaxy that even in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, hope, courage, and loyalty could shine through.
In a galaxy of endless war, legends endure, shadows protect, light inspires, and when they unite, even the impossible becomes reality.
Calvarus Prime lay in ruin, yet alive. Fires smoldered, smoke drifted into a clearing sky, and the echo of battle faded. The Bat and the Angel of Hope stood together, surveying a world scarred but not broken. Batman glanced at Superman. Years of friendship, battles in Gotham, and now a universe apart, all condensed into this single moment. No words were needed. Trust, respect, and purpose flowed silently between them. In a galaxy where fear dominates, loyalty becomes the strongest weapon. And even in the darkest times, hope is a light that cannot be extinguished.
They began to aid survivors and Imperial Guard forces, stabilizing structures, guiding civilians, and tending to the wounded. Batman's strategy and Superman's strength combined seamlessly. Shadow protects, light inspires. Together, they ensure the living endure where many would fall.
Batman turned to Superman. "We've made a difference," he said, voice low but firm. Superman nodded, eyes scanning a horizon. "This galaxy is vast. There's still darkness out there. But wherever there's shadow, I'll find light. And wherever there's light, I'll make sure it reaches those who need it." They stood together, not just as heroes, but as symbols. A promise etched into the galaxy's fabric, that shadows and light, hope and courage can endure any darkness.